All right, Rudy. Today we're going to talk about your history and how you got involved in the Marine Corps at the age of 16, and you're going to tell us a little bit about your adventures up to the point of the end of World War II. So,
start off with, I guess he said I was born on a farm down in the South, and my dad was a farmer and also a truck driver. And he drove up to Atlanta, Georgia to make a delivery, then started back down to my hometown. And halfway back, the truck broke down. They didn't have heaters then, and it was a snowstorm. And he had to stay out all night, of course. And it ended up he got double pneumonia, what they call double pneumonia. And he died. He passed on. And I was 4 or 5 years old. And after that, my mother bought a little restaurant, and that's where she actually raised 4 kids there by herself. And I was one of them, of course. I had a brother and 2 sisters. About the time the war broke out, my brother said he was going to join the Marine Corps. So I got wise. I said, well, I think I will too. I was 16. And when he came into boot camp, I was just getting out of boot camp. And of course, the rule was, you don't say, you say sir to people who have already completed boot camp. And I had him standing at attention and saying sir to me all the time. My orders came, and I went up to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, to mortar school, 81 and 60s. And from there, I joined the 21st Replacement Battalion, who was scheduled to go overseas. And we boarded the train, and we arrived, we had stopped off in a little California town down in the desert, and I can't think of the name of it, on Highway 40. It was hot, yeah, during the middle of the summer. And we ended up traveling through the normal train routes until we got to to San Diego. We disembarked there from the train, and we ended up in a tent camp at Tent Camp Linda Vista. From there, we boarded an old banana boat. Had been converted into a troop carrier. That was the George F. Elliott. And we boarded in San Diego and headed out to sea. We didn't know where we were going, anything. They didn't put out the information. But we knew we were going to fight the Japs. During that traveling, we crossed the equator. And that's where we had a little retirement. Before you cross the equator, you're a shellback. You're a polywog. When you go through the initiation, which they normally stop the ships, not during the war, but beforehand, and initiate everybody going across the equator to become shellbacks. And it was a lot of fun, actually. They had the King's baby, a big, fat Navy chief, and he was dressed up like a baby, and you had to go up and kiss the baby's belly. When you did that, he'd take his hands and just push your face into his belly and rub it around. After that, he'd let you go. Then you'd run down a belt line with sailors on both sides initiating you with belts. I mean, they'd whip your butt. But it was a lot of fun, really. It broke the monotony, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. And we went on then sailed on to New Caledonia and then disembarked. And we were there for about 2 weeks, and we re-embarked or reboarded aboard the LSTs and headed up toward Guadalcanal. We didn't stop any place, just straight up there. Slow. LSTs are slow, as you know. When we got there, we disembarked and went to the camp over in Coconut Grove on Guadalcanal. Put up camp, and we were there for just a short while. And reboarded the LSTs and headed up to Bougainville, where the fighting was going on at the time. But we trained more up there. After we went to Bougainville, we came back to Guadalcanal and made up camp and trained several months. I don't remember exactly how long, but it was interesting. Got to know the natives, and they were all nice. Japanese were still there. Every now and then they'd get some out of the boonies to come out. They'd surrender. Had a prison camp there where they stayed. And of course, these guys, nobody, we were all kids, for God's sakes. And right around the Tenaroo River, we put ropes in trees and swing, leisure time. We'd go over and swing out in the river, over the river, and drop off the swing, of course, just like you would in the United States. Bougainville, we could, I never did see any Japs personally, but we had a lot of stuff going on at night. They'd yell, Babe Ruth eat shit, and we'd say Tojo eat shit. And it was just calm, really, most of the time. That's when I got out of ammo carrier and become a wireman. Ammo carrying is not fun. And when you're, especially if you're with the 81 mortars. So I volunteered to be a wireman, and that's where I remained the rest of the war. A wireman with forward observer. The 81 mortar section, you go up and the wireman would go ahead of the forward observer and lay the line so that he would have contact with the rear echelon. And that was my job.
So you carried a carbine at that time?
Yes, but not for long. First chance I got me in 03, which was a bolt action. And then after that, I got me an M1. And I didn't get the M1 until I got to Guam. That's where I picked up the M1. And I left Guam. When I left Guam, I had switched from an M1 to the BAR, Browning Automatic Rifle, which had 20-round magazines. That was my favorite. What was nice? Well, we trained for the landing on Guam. When we went up to on the way to Guam, we were aboard ship a long time. We were in reserve too for the 2nd Marine Division, who was landing on Saipan. While we were floating in reserve on Saipan, for Saipan, the Navy sent in aircraft and did not warn us. And we actually shot down one of the TBMs of our own people. They came in from the sun early morning. You couldn't see what they were. And we figured it was Japanese. And they had an aircraft shot one aircraft down. And then it ceased fire. And we were aboard the LSTs then. But it was a huge, the entire unit for the landing, without waiting for Saipan to get in trouble. If they were, we would go in. If they didn't, we'd just go into Guam, which is what we did. And we made the landing in Guam. And we were happy to see that we were finally getting off. That as we went in, the LCIs, what we went in on, and it was just a little, I forget the direction, north or south of Agana, Agana, Guam. And they had pillboxes set up on, the Japanese had pillboxes set up on the on the coast and on the sea level, and also had them up in the hills. But we were pinned down for 3 days on the beach. A gunnery sergeant there that he'd been on my case for all the time we were on Guadalcanal training. Yeah, what are you doing? Just making sure I was there. So making sure I was learning the jobs that I was supposed to be doing. Well, I said, you're not going to come off alive. I kind of threatened to kill him because he's on my case all the time. But when we landed and he got hit, he was up a ditch. And in this ditch, he was calling for help, calling for corpsmen. And I went up in the ditch to see how he was doing, to help him out. And all he could say was, water, chick, I need water. Chick is what they call him because those youngins weren't there. It's just, chick is for the youngest person in the outfit. And I gave him water, which I was sorry about because I found out later he was had a stomach wound, and water was the worst thing I could do for him. But I got him and dragged him out. When the corpsman got to him, I found out that he was gut shot. He was evacuated, and I never found out if he lived or not. Like I say, he got hit the first day. We were on the beach for 3 days. We were pinned down from the enemy fire coming from above the hills, on the hills. All we could do was to drop the rounds in and fire over the hills. And we didn't know who was up there yet. The infantry now, the grunts, they were crawling up the hills. And the mortars, it's hard to crawl up the hills with mortars and ammo and so forth. The guys in the front, the foot troops, ground troops, they were inching up an inch at a time. And we were there for 3 days. We were giving them support fire over. They'd call in if they could, and with the radios. And then we just moved forward day at a time. Everyone was nervous and afraid, you just say hid, I didn't realize I was scared, but I'm sure I was. After that guy got hit behind me, this guy, he's right behind me, had his hand up on some coral rock, and we was trying to see what was going on. Had 3 fingers shot off his right hand. I don't know how it got him, and it didn't get me because he was directly behind me. But we moved forward, and once we got the island secured, I know we moved up, and the day that we walked through Agana, I walked right by a guy's head. That's all that was. I remember the guy's name, but I won't say it. But it was a major. And his head from right here was all I saw. His eyes were open. He's a great guy. He's a West Pointer. And he decided to get in the Marine Corps. He was one of the finest officers I've ever met. But he was riding in a Jeep the Jeep hit a mine and he was dead. That was the first time I actually saw one of our people dead.